From Nutrien Ag Solutions, I'm Senior Meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie Weather Story for Monday, November 13th, 2023. We've got a couple of storm systems that will impact the prairie here over the next 4 to 5 days, but they're going to bring very little in the way of measurable precipitation. We'll look at the jet stream pattern here with the infrared satellite picture here early on Monday morning. We've got an area of low pressure across the Hudson Bay, kind of spinning away over Ontario, and then we've got this big upper level low across the Pacific. That's bringing a lot of moisture to coastal portions of British Columbia, the Pacific Northwest, and the west coast of the United States. And from this, we will see a couple of disturbances again, lifting across the prairie, bringing light doses of precipitation with them as they do so, and that's what we'll talk about through the course of this forecast video. Looking at the radar picture here early on Monday morning, generally quiet across the entirety of the prairie. A lot of precipitation if you look off to the west, again associated with that strong feed of Pacific moisture and jet stream support coming in from the west. So heavy precipitation continues, across much of coastal British Columbia. Some of the higher elevations there seeing a lot of rain and some snowfall, but only going to see a little bit of precipitation accumulating across the prairie as we head through the next 4 to 5 days. Temperatures still generally mild across much of the prairie. You can find some sub-freezing temperatures in some corridors there, especially where we have a little bit of snow on the ground, but some portions of southern Alberta already touching 10 degrees almost here on this early Monday morning. The sun just coming up and already some mild temps across portions of southern Alberta, southwestern Saskatchewan. Again, a lot of that with southerly flow out ahead of that upper level trough. So that is the reason for some of the warmer air beginning to nudge into the region. And now as we look at the last 7 days of precipitation, we did see some of that spreading across portions of southern Saskatchewan into central and southern Manitoba. As expected, it was a drier week, though, across much of Alberta. So it's quite dry in the west, a little bit of lighter rain and snow as you made your way across Saskatchewan and Manitoba over the last 7 days. And as we look at the next 7 days, kind of a broad look at the European ensemble model here. Not a lot in the way of heavy rain or snow coming to the prairie this week, although we do see a couple opportunities for at least some lighter snow or lighter rain showers to move in across the region. Again, early this week into midweek, and then again we'll watch next week for the chance for some more light precipitation. So here's your total snowfall forecast over the next 7 days. Again, a smoothed out, kind of averaged outlook here with the European ensemble, but the story is rather clear. I mean, as we look at the next 7 days, not much in the way of heavy snow falling across the region, just some opportunities for some flurries or maybe some light minor accumulation. Here's the jet stream. This is what we've got right now. Again, here's that upper level low across the Hudson Bay, parts of Ontario, and then here's the big upper level low spinning across the Pacific and then moving in across portions of Western Canada and the Western U.S. So you see the steady flow right here of Pacific moisture kind of being blasted in across portions of southern British Columbia, down across the Pacific Northwest, portions of the Western United States. Now, as I animate this, we'll talk about what happens over the next 4 to 5 days here first. We've got a couple disturbances that come out of that trough across the Pacific. You see the first one right here. That patch of red, those stronger upper level winds. This is one of those what we call short waves embedded with the broader upper level trough. So this little short wave ejects across the prairie here over the next 24 hours. It'll bring some light snow with it, and I'm talking very light snow, some flurries, maybe some blustery winds. You see another little short wave then coming in on the backside of this. This one moves in midweek, Wednesday and Thursday. It kind of phases with another little short wave, another little patch of stronger winds coming around the base of that upper level low across the west. And that's going to bring us, again, another period of stronger jet stream flow, upper level support. We'll develop another storm system. We'll bring in some more light rain, maybe some light snow across the prairie here as we go through the later part of the week, Wednesday into Thursday. Then as we head into the weekend, what we see is this upper level low kind of, it's sinking off to the south a bit, and we're eventually going to bring it in across the southwestern U.S. So then we get flow coming over the top of that, kind of diving in across the prairie. So while we will see a chance for some additional snowfall as we head into early next week, this is the weekend here, I'm kind of watching additional systems that come in around the base here. Right now, most indications have them, again, I talked about the upper level low sinking south and eventually coming in across the western U.S. As we get into the end of the weekend and early next week, my gut feeling is that anything that comes wrapping around here early next week is going to follow this same trajectory here, kind of reinforcing this upper level low, likely to develop a couple of significant storm systems that impact portions of the central U.S. Now, we could definitely see some of those wintry impacts on the northern edge lifting into portions of the prairie. I would put my money on that being across eastern portions of the prairie early next week. But right now, my gut says a lot of the upper level support, a lot of the heavier precipitation is headed for the central and southern U.S. as we head into next week. What I think is more likely for us to see across the prairie next week is some colder air, and we'll talk about why that is in just a moment. Let's look at the precipitation forecast, though, and tie all this together. Again, a quiet start to the week, but here's that low that ejects here tonight into tomorrow. So this would be about sunset tonight. We'll take it to midnight overnight here. Again, very light precipitation associated with this, and this gets out of here Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. So this would be as the sun goes down on Tuesday evening. This area of low pressure is already lifted up towards northern Manitoba, and its light snowfall has done the same. This is when we see another system come around the backside here, mid to late week. This is Wednesday afternoon. This is now Thursday. Right now, the models have the area of low pressure tracking south of the U.S.-Canadian border with a little shield of light snow expanding across the north side there, just stacking up maybe an inch or so, probably some very minor snow accumulation. And then this gets out of here by Thursday night into Friday morning. And then we've got a quiet weekend. This is your Friday night. This is your Saturday, November 18th, Sunday, November 19th. This is when the pattern begins to reload. We see another push of storm systems associated with that upper level low to the west make its way in. I have very low confidence in how exactly that happens. Again, my gut says the heaviest precipitation sinks south of the prairie, but it's certainly possible we could see one or more of these systems clipping portions of the prairie as they do so. So eyes on early next week, November 19th, 20th, 21st. That's what I'm kind of rocking back and forth on for a chance of an impactful storm to make its way in. My gut says south, but this is when the window is open for us early next week. We'll look at the NAM model just briefly, looking at the precipitation that falls here early this week. This is your Monday morning. This is your Monday evening, Monday night. Again, snow mostly north of Highway 16 and light in nature. This is sunrise Tuesday morning. This would be Tuesday evening, Tuesday night, getting into Wednesday. This is when that next disturbance starts to slide in across the region, bringing very light snowfall to areas closest to the U.S. and Canadian border Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Total precipitation, total snowfall, we'll start with that. This is Monday, now Tuesday, a running loop into Wednesday, and then now you see Wednesday night into Thursday, that little stripe of light snowfall, talking about 5 centimeters or less of snowfall across southern portions of the prairie provinces. That falling here again. You can watch it here Wednesday night into Thursday, tapering off by Friday morning, quiet for the weekend, and then additional chances for some precipitation early next week. Total liquid amounts, again, very light. A lot of folks not seeing any. If you're north of Highway 16, it's probably going to be a dry next 5 to 7 days. If you're south of Highway 16, we're talking about some flurries, maybe stacking up a light coating, up to 5 centimeters of snow from that Wednesday into Thursday storm system as it tracks across the U.S.-Canadian border. This really tells the story, though. On the left, you've got the probability of picking up more than 1/10 of an inch of precipitation through Sunday, November 19th. And then on the right, you've got the probability of picking up a 1/2 inch or more. As you see that 1/2 inch, we're looking at a 0% probability there. We're just not really stacking up much in the way of substantial precipitation. You look at that little strip of snow that falls Wednesday night into Thursday, we're talking about, maybe a 50-50 shot of picking up a 1/2 inch. Very unlikely. We're likely looking at very light snowfall amounts, 5 centimeters or less across this region. And then we look at what the jet stream does as we head into mid to late next week. We're talking about kind of that November 20th through 25th time frame. Again, we start off with this big upper level low spinning across the Pacific, and then as we head again through the next 7 days, what I mentioned was we kind of see the center of that upper level low begin to migrate into the central United States. It's a process that's going to take us about 7 to 10 days, but as we do that, this sets the table for us to then have access to some much colder air off to the north as we kind of reset the trajectory of upper level flow across the Canadian prairie. This will finally allow for some colder air to begin to sink in across the region, portions of western Canada into the northwest U.S., likely looking at a shift toward a much colder pattern as we head into the last week of November. Now, is this a wetter pattern? It is not. We'll look at the precipitation forecast here again in what I've done is it's a sliding 72-hour window, so it kind of helps us pick up on periods of more active weather. Again, as we look at the next 72 hours, we do have that little strip of light snow across southern portions of the prairie provinces, but as I animate this, we see that vanish here as we head into a dry weekend. And then really that next push, that next opportunity, you see this feed of Pacific moisture right here. This would be as we come out of the weekend into early next week. That's when it's going to happen, if it's going to happen. It being, again, a more substantial coating of snow or two across the prairie. You see that chance early next week. Much of the activity, the heaviest activity though, focused very clearly across the central and southern into the southeastern United States, associated with that area of low pressure shifting into the region. That just makes sense. As we head deeper into next week, again, we see that precipitation forecast again drying out across the prairie. So this is a drier pattern as we see jet stream flow coming over the top there, that faster jet stream flow racing in across this region. This is where we would expect to be very active. This is where we would expect to be very cold. So we look at those next 10 days across the Calgary, again, mild as we head through the rest of this week, those highs touching 10 degrees at times, shifting into a colder pattern as we get into mid to late next week. You can start to see that show up here at the very end of the 10-day temperature forecast. Edmonton, very similar look. Here is Saskatoon. Another look at this in Regina. Again, most models here starting to pick up on that colder trend. This would be as we get into early next week. Could we see some snow with it? Certainly. I think it's much more likely, though, that the heavier precipitation is south of the region and that our impact is primarily a shift toward a colder pattern. I hope you have a wonderful week. We'll certainly talk about this again a week from today. Our next forecast update, Monday, November 20th, 2023.